You all know why we've come here. The patrons have pushed us into a corner. Their magic has grown too powerful to hold in check. These villains are stealing the worship of our own followers. We must do something before they marshal their forces, before they destroy us and all we stand for. We've come to the Vortex to destroy the world. Life will be better after the Sundering. Our followers will live on in the new worlds of air, fire, stone, and water. Our enemies will be trapped in the labyrinth to contemplate their dark ways. And we will guide the new order into the future. Help me, my friends. Let us summon the world seal and begin the process of healing. Ties together all of Earth's elements. As we sunder it, so do we sunder the world. Thus we begin a new age.
Hello everybody, this is Amayirot Akago, bringing you a brand spanking new full Let's Play of a classic fantasy adventure game, Deathgate. Created by Legend Entertainment, creators of such other fine adventure games as the Spellcasting series, Eric the Unready, Shannara, and Callahan's Crosstime Saloon. And this game isn't very well known nowadays, so... But, you know, I really enjoyed playing through it not that long ago. So I felt it made the perfect material for a new Let's Play. Considering I've been wanting to replay this game for the longest time as well. So, just saw the intro. Some serious shit going down. But all will become clear right after the end credits. Opening credits, I should say. Exactly what kind of a world we find ourselves in. In fact, this game has a lot of exposition, I should warn you. Especially right at the beginning, when you're kind of thrown right into the world, so... This game is very talky, is what I'm trying to say.
"2,000 years ago, the Sartan Council sundered the world into 5 realms. One of them was a nightmarish prison called the Labyrinth, and into it was banished the entire patron race, your ancestors. This is the place you've always called home, and all you've ever wanted is escape. Your name is Haplo, and you are a patron. Not long ago, Lord Tsar, the most powerful patron sorcerer of his generation, broke through the labyrinth's final gate. In doing so, he paved the way for others to follow. The path was still difficult, but not impossible. Your travels led you to the final gate, where the combined forces of the labyrinth waited to turn you away. The fight was hopeless. Alone you never would have survived. But then Lord Tsar appeared, and with his help you were able to rout the dark monsters of the labyrinth. What followed is hazy. You remember stumbling out of the final gate, but then you collapsed on the ground, and Lord Tsar's concerned face faded to darkness as you lost consciousness.
So, here's the beginning of the game. We're Haplo, we just escaped from the labyrinth, and after awakening, here's our savior, Lord Zar. This elegant room has the unmistakable touch of Sartan architecture. Zar sits before you, studying a tome. So I suppose we should go talk to him and get some clarification as to what exactly is going on.
Ah, Haplo. Do you feel well enough to talk, my son? I was worried. You took some serious wounds in your dash for the final gate. It was all I could do to repair your heart rune and heal you. The few weeks since you escaped the labyrinth should have been enough time to recover, but we don't want to rush it.
Yeah, right off the bat, we're getting some serious fantasy lingo thrown at us, like heart rune. And this section is pretty much where Zar explains the whole state of the world we're in. Kind of a catching up session for people who haven't read the books this game is based on, I suppose. I haven't read them, but this game does a well enough job of explaining things, if you're patient enough to listen to it, of course.
I know you have a lot of questions. I'll do my best to answer them, but first I'd like to give you some history. You've spent your life trying to escape the labyrinth and hating the Sartan who consigned our race there, but you don't really know the full story. Even I didn't know everything when I escaped, but I learned quickly.
Very nice voice acting in this game, too. This guy sort of reminds me of a slightly darker Liam Neeson, I would say.
You see this city around us? The Sartan made this. They made it for us, if you can believe it, for when we emerged from the labyrinth. We were supposed to be docile, rehabilitated, brainwashed. Instead, we hate our Sartan jailers more than ever. There are libraries here, stocked with books. Since my escape, I've been studying them. They tell me much, but not all. There are mysteries I cannot explain, but I will tell you everything I've learned. 2,000 years ago, our patron ancestors warred with the Sartan. We were winning. It was only a matter of time until we defeated the evil sorcerers, took our rightful place as leaders of the world, and freed the other races from their slavery to the Sartan. In desperation, a Sartan named Sama hatched a fiendish plan. He intended to sunder the world into 5 realms. 4 of these realms would be homes to the mensch races, elves, humans, and dwarves. The 5th is here, the labyrinth. It was supposed to serve as a prison for our race. They created a magic artifact called the World Seal. With it, they succeeded in sundering the world. Our ancestors were trapped in the labyrinth, and the rest of the world was broken into the other 4 realms. They planned to lord over the realms and administer the labyrinth as we were rehabilitated. But something happened. They just disappeared, and with them, all of their good intentions. Without the guidance of the Sartan, the labyrinth became a slaughterhouse. Its magic made it aware, intelligent, and it wanted our blood. Life was a living hell for our people. But instead of breaking us as the Sartan wanted, the labyrinth has made us stronger. Many of us have escaped, despite the labyrinth's best efforts. I go back in every day to aid others in their way. I only needed to take you a few 100 feet. You even demanded that you cross the final gate on your own, without any help, before you passed out. You should be proud.
Aww.
Now, my son, I need you. Since my escape, I have been devising a plan to restore our people to our once glorious position. It is our birthright. To this end, you must carry out a very special mission for me. I need you to go into these realms. You'll not only be gathering information, but searching for the seal itself. With it in hand, I plan to reform the world from the broken pieces that the Sartan left us. But here I've been dominating the conversation. You must be very confused. I'm sure you have many questions for me. I'll detail my plan later.
Yeah, you can say that again. Dominating the conversation. See what I mean about this game being talky, and we haven't even gotten to all of this yet. Let's just see if we can get through this as quickly as we can.
How exactly did the Sartan sunder the world?
The Sartan commanded their dwarven slaves to forge an artifact called the World Seal. It consisted of 5 metal hexagons, each inscribed with a rune, a symbol, which represented one of the 5 realms. They broke the seal apart, and as they did, the world broke apart as well. It was sundered into the 5 realms, and each seal piece went into the realm that it named. As you see above my head, the seal piece that names the Nexus is here.
Tell me about the other realms.
Certainly, my son. The Sartan sundered the world into 5 realms. They based 4 of them on the elements: air, fire, stone, and water. The 5th, of course, is the Labyrinth. They are all separated by large distances, too far to travel in a lifetime. That's why the Sartan created the Death Gate. Through it, people can travel from one realm to any other.
And now we know where the title of the game came from. Also, Haplo... Well, I said before the voice acting is pretty decent, but Haplo, he sounds kind of like a dork.
Can you tell me about the realm of air?
The books here are rather sketchy about the realms, but of all of them, the world of air, or Arianos as the Sartan named it, is the one I'm most familiar with. It's made up of many separate continents which float in the air.
Czar pulls out a map of the floating continents, each labeled with a strange word which you assume is its name. The distinctive shapes of the islands stick in your mind.
The lower continents are populated by the dwarves. Those islands are plagued with almost continuous electrical storms. The higher continents, with much better weather, are homes to the humans and elves. Perhaps it indicates a pecking order in the Mensch. Who knows? The books don't say much more about it, regrettably.
Tell me about the realm of fire.
The realm of fire, or Prian, is a hollow world. Instead of living on the outside of the sphere, as we did on the original world, they live on the inside, along the inner curvature. At the center, 4 powerful suns throw their heat and light upon the ground. I believe it is the largest of the realms, but I know little else about it.
So the Sartan invented a Dyson sphere. Cool.
What do you know about the realm of stone?
Abayirot, realm of stone, is not much more than a rock hanging in space. It's full of warrens, tunnels, and lava tubes. From the sketchy notes I read about it, it sounds perfectly horrible. Definitely the worst place to live of all the realms.
Horrible.
Can you tell me anything about the realm of water?
Celestra is the realm of water, and in fact it is a ball of water. At its heart is a sea sun which warms and lights the interior. The exterior is completely frozen, exposed as it is to the cold of space. Sea moons orbit the sea sun. They are hollow, living creatures which draw energy from the sun. Inside, the Sartan built cities to house not only the Mensch, but themselves. I believe that they intended to finally live there to administrate over all of the realms.
So, do the sea moons house sea clowns as well?
Have you learned anything about the labyrinth?
Like I explained, the labyrinth was supposed to rehabilitate our entire race. With the Sartan in control, the test that it administered would have been difficult, even violent, but never fatal. The Sartan disappeared, and somehow the labyrinth became sentient. Its magic took on an intelligence. It started to kill us, slowly but surely. It toyed with us, always gave us just enough hope to keep us fighting. It created environments and monsters that even the twisted Sartan had never dreamed of. But we bested it. We escaped, and more of our kind are escaping all the time. But it is a trickle instead of a flood. Most of our race is still trapped inside. If my plan unfolds as I expect, I will free everyone at the same instant and bring an end to our imprisonment once and for all.
What is this place exactly? It's not the labyrinth.
It's known as the Nexus, kind of a way station. This city is where the Sartan were supposed to watch over the labyrinth. I believe they were going to give it to us as a place to live once we had been rehabilitated. It makes a perfect staging area for my plan.
The Death Gate? What's that?
The Death Gate is a portal. It connects the 5 realms. With a good ship and the right magic, anyone can cross the Death Gate from one realm to any other.
Have you crossed the Death Gate?
No, I haven't been able. I've made preparations, but it's always been my intention to send an emissary, or more appropriately, a scout in my stead. In fact, I was hoping that you would be my eyes in these realms.
What kind of magic is needed to cross the Death Gate?
It's very simple, yet infernally unattainable. The books describe the necessary preparations. You need a ship, one powered by magic with the ability of flight. You need a steering stone, magically treated to guide the ship through the portal. But upon the stone, you also need the naming rune of the target realm. The books state this, but neglect to actually show the runes, as if they were common knowledge. None of the books depict these runes. For years, I've been researching the subject, reading every document, poring over every scrap of parchment, and I believe I've finally divined one of the runes, that of Arianos, World of Air. It's the only one I've been able to reconstruct, and it's taken years. I don't even know if it's possible to produce the others, given the pitiful research materials I have. It's my thought that the other runes might lie somewhere inside the realm of air. For some time, I've been planning to send someone there to look for them.
Do you have a ship?
Yes, the Sartan were kind enough to leave one for us. It didn't have the steering stone that such a ship requires, but I was able to reproduce one. Without the naming runes of the realms, of course.
Of course.
Where did the Sartan disappear to?
I don't know. I don't think their disappearance was planned. All of their documents indicate that they expected to be around for a long time to enjoy the fruits of their labor. It seems that one day they just vanished. I have a few theories. It's possible that they did plan to vanish. They might be hiding somewhere in the realms, using the disappearance as a smokescreen to make us careless. When the time is right, they will return with our deaths in their hands. In any case, I take nothing for granted. I must know where the Sartan went to. I must have vengeance. Our people cry for it. Somewhere in the realms there must be signs, clues. Eventually, we shall discover them, and the trail will lead us to the Sartan. Then we shall destroy them.
Ooh, dude's intense.
What were the Sartan like?
I've pieced together a picture from the books I've found. The Sartan were the opposite of us, even physically. As we have black hair with white ends, the Sartan have white hair with black tips. The runes that we place upon our bodies for protection and to enhance our magic, they shun. I believe that while the Labyrinth has forged us into a harder, stronger race, the Sartan have grown softer in their luxurious realms. They will be no match for us. They will look into our eyes and find the mercy they gave us, the hatred we've kept burning for thousands of years, and their own deaths.
You repaired my heart rune?
Yes. As the Labyrinth continued to attack you, the magic rune tattooed over your heart became weaker and weaker. When I discovered you, it was actually broken. As you know, heart runes must be complete to function. They sustain us, protect us. They are like circles. The magic of your being continually flows through it. If it becomes weak, you cannot cast spells. If it ever becomes broken, you fall ill. Luckily, I found you in time. I was able to draw upon my own life force to lend to you. It repaired your heart rune and made you strong enough to overcome the final hurdle of the Labyrinth.
Tell me about magic.
Certainly, patrons have magic in their blood. Once we were the greatest sorcerers in the world. If we had learned to work together as the Sartan did, they never would have stood a chance against us. Since then, we have lost much of our skill. We have forgotten many spells because they were useless in the Labyrinth and retained only a very few. We never lost our potential, though. To this day, we can cast any spell as long as we know how it is constructed. But we are pitifully ignorant. One of the things we must do before we confront the Sartan again is to relearn the magic that we have forgotten.
How does magic really work?
Magic is
Midi-chlorians.
based upon possibilities. The possibility always exists that reality is a certain way. Imagine that a stone wall blocks your path. There is a possibility that a door exists in that wall. A wizard bends this possibility into reality until the door appears. All spells work this way.
How do you cast a spell?
Spells are made up of runes. You build a spell by putting these runes together to form a rune construct. When you have built the construct in your mind, you trace the design in the air. The magic catches fire and leaves a glowing trace behind your finger. Upon completion, the spell casts, and reality is changed.
How do you learn new spells?
The easiest way to learn a new spell is simply to watch someone casting it. All you have to do is mimic the motions, trace the same rune construct in the air, and you are casting that spell. Another method is to see it on paper. Sometimes people prepare books of spells. Other times they include spells to highlight their text. Spells could be found on any document. I've scoured these halls looking for any such books and come up empty. Perhaps the Sartan were careful about the text they left behind, just in case we escaped too soon. Finally, one may discover a spell permanently placed upon an object. When a wizard wishes a spell to be permanent, he can magically prepare an object to receive the spell, then cast that spell upon it. Then the spell is always visible. It engraves itself upon the surface of the object. By studying it, one can learn the spell.
Can you tell me anything about the spells I already know?
I'm afraid that, like most patrons, your repertoire is rather limited. You know only the most basic of spells, heat and cold, normally used to keep yourself alive in the harsh climates that the labyrinth can produce. They are powerful, but not very versatile.
In short, Haplo kinda sucks right now.
Do you know any spells that you can teach me?
Yes, I do. There are 2 spells that I intend to teach you. Identify and Rune Transfer. Both will be very useful in your mission. Identify can supply information about any magic object or spell. If you encounter an unknown object or learn a new spell, but are unsure about its magical properties, simply cast Identify. It will explain everything to you. The second spell, Rune Transfer, is very specific. With it, you can transfer a rune symbol from any object to a magically prepared surface. This will be necessary to place the naming runes of the 4 realms upon the steering stone. After I teach you the spell, I will give you a marker with the naming rune of Arianas upon it. You must take it aboard the ship to the steering stone. There, cast Rune Transfer upon the marker and transfer the rune to the stone. Following that, the ship will be able to take you there, to the realm of air. Regretfully, I do not know the other runes that name the remaining realms. Hopefully in your travels you will discover these other runes. If you do, transfer them onto the steering stone in the same way. The Death Gate will never let you into the other realms if you do not.
How do you get back into the labyrinth to help our people escape?
The labyrinth doesn't mind letting people in. It's letting them out that it doesn't like. I think the labyrinth has something personal against me. It tries to lure me in as far as possible before it throws everything it has at me.
Rocks fall, everyone dies.
Don't believe that I'm not afraid. Every time I enter, I wonder if I'll ever return. I've been able to get the best of that demon place many times, but every trip it gets more devious, more dangerous.
What is your plan?
The Sartan's plan was unnatural. They killed millions of mensch and consigned our race to a living hell. I intend to undo the damage. I want to reform the world. Much like the Sundering, the Reformation will require all 5 of the seal pieces. I have the Nexus seal piece, but I need the other 4. The Sartan have hidden them somewhere in their realms. You must be my agent. I need you to go into the realms and find those seal pieces and bring them back here. When I have them all, I will reform the world, free our people, and bring the Sartan to justice.
Gotta catch 'em all.
Now I know the naming rune for only one of the realms. I will give you a marker with the rune upon it. Use the Rune Transfer spell to place it upon the steering stone on board your ship. The stone will then be able to transport you to Arianas, the realm of air. Since I don't know the runes that name the other 3 realms, I can only hope that you will find them somewhere on Arianas. I also wish to know what happened to the Sartan. Their disappearance mystifies me. Finally, I want you to learn any new spells that you come across. It's only through the infusion of new spells that we will be able to build up our arsenal of magic. So, do you understand your mission? Take your ship to Arianos, search for its seal piece and the other realm's naming runes, and gather any information you can about the missing Sartan and new magic spells. When you have finished, come back here, deliver the seal piece to me, and give me your report. Now I shall teach you the 2 spells you will need. Watch me closely.
Zar's hand rises. One finger extends and begins to move against an unseen canvas. It leaves behind a glowing line in the air. The design follows the graceful movement of Zar's hand. Finally, Zar draws his hand back, but the spell remains floating in the air.
This is the Rune transfer spell. Study it. Remember it. This next construct defines the identify spell. Watch me again.
First spell fades and Zar traces a new design in the air. This one is very simple and quick to complete. You stare at it and commit it to memory.
That's all, my son. I am entrusting the fate of our race to you. Do not fail me.
So yeah, no pressure then. He tosses you a stone marker with an intricate symbol upon it, the naming rune of Arianos, you guess, and returns to studying the tome laid on the desk before him. Whew! Well, that's quite something. Best not waste any time and get underway. This gate is the final portal of the labyrinth. Just beyond is the hell you called home for most of your life. Well, even if we want to, though, we can't get in just yet. You remember Zar, opening the gate and returning to help others escape the clutches of the labyrinth. You were one of the patrons whom he helped, but you can't bring yourself to open the gate. You don't want to give the labyrinth another chance to take your life. So, like I said, let's not waste any time getting going. Your ship is docked a short walk from both the Nexus City and the gate to the labyrinth. Pretty spiffy transport. The wooden one-man ship is shaped like a dragon, an ancient mythological beast. The gangway door is open. So, even in the magic fantasy world, dragons are just a myth. Or are they? Who knows? The trickle of light from the door does nothing to illuminate the ship. You can't see your hand in front of your face. Yeah, that's right. We can't actually do anything until we get some light in here. Fortunately, Zar happens to have 2 of these fancy glow lamps lying around.
Yes, I forgot that you'll need some light for the ship's interior. I'll still have 1 glow lamp left. Feel free to take that one.
Well, thank you very much. Okay. You carefully place the glow lamp on a mount by the door. With the new light, you look around your ship carefully, identifying the navigational tools provided. In the center, you see the steering stone. It has the power to guide your dragon ship through the Death Gate and into the other realms, as long as that realm is represented by its naming rune on the surface of the stone. To the front of the ship, you see the steering wheel. Once you've traveled to a new realm, this allows you to navigate your vessel to places within it. Cool. So, like Lord Zar said, we have to transfer the rune onto the stone using the spellcasting interface. Now you can select these runes manually, or you can just select a rune to select a spell to cast from this handy list. So let's do some rune transferring. Using... Stone is intended to be the receptacle of the runes, not the origin. There's nothing to transfer the runes to here besides the steering stone. Huh? Did I click on the wrong thing, maybe? Do I have to cast magic on the marker? Rune transfer. Ah, transfer the marker onto the steering stone. All done. Arianos, here we come. Use the steering wheel. Don't know of any places to travel to in this realm. Do I have to use the steering stone? Yeah. You call on the power of the steering stone to take you through the Death Gate and into Arianos' world of air. Woohoo! ship arrives in the midst of a terrible storm. Quickly, you look around for a place to land to ride out the weather, but all you see is space. There's no ground anywhere. Suddenly, through the lightning, rain, and wind, you make out a floating island as big as a continent. You pilot the ship towards it and land on a bare rock just outside of a cave. Nice place. Let's have a look-see. You stand on barren rock under a raging storm. A cave opens into a mountain wall and a ramp rises into your ship. Not a whole lot I can look at around here, except for these zingers. Two glowing metal objects sit atop tall poles. Periodically the storm lashes out and sends bolts of lightning against them. Instead of doing any damage, they simply cause the objects to glow brighter. As I recall, we need one of those, but I don't think we can just go out and grab one of them right away. Zingers are placed high atop the poles out of reach. Yeah. There's a bare pole. Don't think we can just grab that either. Nope. Guess we'll come back to that later. Let's go meet the inhabitants. This small cavern contains a control panel, several pieces of furniture, and a female dwarf. The dwarf looks up at you in surprise.
Oh my! You're huge! But you're not glowing. Are you a god?
If someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes! But I don't think we should necessarily deceive them right away. Of sorts, perhaps. Why would I be glowing? I'm not so huge. You're just small.
I'm not so huge. You're just small.
Ask anyone. I'm tall for my height. You're just a giant.
Of course I'm a god. What are my offerings?
That's a rather unusual greeting. Hello to you as well.
I must have forgotten my manners. Hello, huge visitor. Try not to trip on anything. It must be hard to keep your balance when you're so far from the ground.
A god? Of sorts, perhaps. Why would I be glowing?
All gods glow. At least everyone I've seen glows. How can you be a god if you're not glowing?
You've seen gods around? Do they call themselves Sartan by chance?
No. They just call themselves gods. Maybe you're thinking about some other gods.
How many gods have you seen?
About this many. I think that there are more, but I don't get to see them.
Ah, you've caught me. I'm not really a god, I'm just a traveler.
A traveler? Nice to meet you. I'm Jar. You're awfully big not to be a god, but you don't act like one. They're always yelling and commanding and taking things. Gods aren't very nice. Look what they did to my electric zinger panel.
Electric zinger? What's that?
The zingers are set up on the poles outside of the cave. When the lightning hits them, they suck up the electricity. I think the Kixie Winsy likes electricity or something. After the zingers have sucked up all they can hold, I pull these levers. Then the show starts.
The Kixie Winsy? What's that?
Why, it's the machine. How can you not know about the Kixie Winsy? It's everywhere. It digs our homes out from the earth. It makes water for us to drink and does, well, other things too. It's our responsibility to care for it, so it can care for us as well.
Show? What show?
The zingers go crazy. They start spinning around and shooting sparks everywhere. Most of the electricity gets sucked into the Kixie Winsy, though, through the poles. Then my meters go back down, and I wait all over again.
Sounds like an exciting job.
You mean that's all you do? Sit here and pull levers?
It's not that easy. You have to know the very best time to pull the levers. My family has been pulling these levers for years, and I'm the best lever puller there's been in a long time.
She must be very proud.
This is all very interesting, but can you tell me more about these gods?
Well, they only showed up about 100 years ago. They dropped from the air in a flying ship. We were curious, of course, and were prepared to greet them as friends. but a glowing figure emerged and declared itself our god. At least one of many. None of us glow, and no one had ever claimed to be a god before, so we believed it. Now they've moved in and taken control. Personally, I liked life without all this divine intervention.
They're so gullible.
When it arrived, your glowing figure claimed to be a god, and you bought it?
Why would someone lie about that? I wouldn't claim to be a god if I wasn't. Besides, he glowed. The way they explain it, you can't glow if you're not a god.
If the figure didn't glow, would you have believed it?
Probably not. If they looked like you, I would have just thought that they were big, but not gods. A few extra feet of height doesn't make you divine.
How exactly have these gods taken control?
They moved into the Kixie Whinsey control room and kicked everyone else out. They're always doing tests and things to it. I don't like them tinkering with the Kixie Whinsey as if they didn't know how to work it. I mean, if you're a god, aren't you supposed to know all that stuff? Anyway, they've also kept us away from the north exit. That's where their ship is. They've always got a guard there to make sure, like they don't trust us.
If you're so upset with the gods, why don't you just drive them off?
They're gods. You don't just tell gods to go away if they get inconvenient. I might not like them, but they're ours. If they weren't gods, though, you can bet we'd have gotten rid of them long ago.
I suppose that makes sense.
Nice place you've got here.
Thank you. I share it with Limbeck. He'll want to meet you. I'm sure he'll be delighted to see a visitor. We've never had one before.
Oh boy, another one to talk to.
Limbeck. I take it that he's another dwarf?
Of course he's a dwarf. What else would I be sharing my quarters with?
Is that his shirt hanging on the wall?
Yes, he never picks up after himself. I made that hook specifically so he'd keep his clothes off of the floor, but I still have to do it for him.
Does that mean you're attached?
Well, yes. Someone's got to look after my Limbeck. He'd fall apart without me.
Aw.
This room doesn't look big enough for two.
Maybe not two creatures as big as you. I'll have you know that this is one of the most spacious rooms on Dreblin. We're lucky to have it.
You must really like this Limbeck.
I'm glad that I can take care of him. He's such a gump sometimes. He gets so involved in his work that he even forgets to eat. I have to bring him in his food. That's why I keep the bread and marmalade handy. It's his favorite.
Isn't that kind of a limited diet?
Well, it's what he likes, and I have to make it perfectly. If there isn't enough marmalade, he calls it dry. If there's too much, he's so messy that he gets it everywhere. That's why I can't let him make it himself. He always puts far too much on.
Now we're talking about the dietary habits of dwarves. Riveting, I know.
Does he like these gods as much as you do?
He doesn't quite dislike them. He simply doesn't believe in them. He thinks that these gods have been taking advantage of us. We've been serving them when we were meant to serve the Kixie Whinsey. He says that we've been oppressed.
What does he do that keeps him so busy?
Mostly he writes speeches. They're supposed to enlighten the masses. He keeps telling people that the gods aren't gods, that he's seen the gods when they weren't glowing. Most dwarves don't believe him. Even I have a hard time, but I support him. He's my Limbeck, after all.
Well, he sounds like a smart guy.
I've enjoyed talking with you, but I'd like to explore this Kixie Whinsey thing.
Oh, certainly. Say hello to Limbeck if you get a chance. He's just in the next room.
She immediately swings her gaze back to the gauges and studies them intently, totally oblivious to you. Well, while we're here, we might as well grab this bread and some marmalade and make ourselves a sandwich. Bit more. You slap a large dollop of marmalade onto the bread. The bread is uniformly covered with it. Just right. You bite down on the slab of bread. After the pain subsides, you decide that only dwarves could enjoy eating something so like a rock. Okay. So we can't eat it then. Shirt. Oh, mine now. Dwarf-sized white t-shirt, none too clean. So dwarves have invented t-shirts. Okay. Papers and parchments are piled everywhere. In the middle is an intent but confused-looking dwarf. Upon your arrival, the dwarf looks up from his scribbling and gasps.
My word! What are you?
I am your god, worship me.
I'm Haplo. What are you?
Haplo? Oh, that's your name. Forgive me, I forget my manners sometimes. I am Limbeck Bolt Tightener. Welcome to my home. You're not a god? No, you can't be. You're not glowing. I assume you're a traveler. A traveler from where? Where are you going? Do you know the gods? What do you think of the Kixie Winsey?
Limbeck continues to bombard you with a rush of questions without so much as pausing to breathe.
I'm just visiting. I've never been here before. I don't know the gods or anything about the Kixie Winsey.
I'm very sorry. Sometimes my curiosity gets the better of me. I'll try and be patient. Please go ahead, ask me anything.
Look at all these responses.
Ever heard of the Sartan?
The Sartan? Is that a place? I'm sorry, I've never heard of it.
I'm looking for a piece of something. It's metal, hexagonal, and has a symbol on it. It's very old. Do you know where I might find it?
I wish I could help, but I'm afraid I'm not familiar with anything like that. If it is very old, there's only one dwarf that might be able to tell you something. Old Grapple Rock Digger has been here forever.
Grapple Rock Digger? Do you think he'd help me find it?
Old Grapple isn't very helpful in the best of moods. And lately, the section of the Kixie Winsey that he is responsible for has broken down. It's made him extremely sullen. He won't talk to anyone except in insults.
I love how Haplo's inflection kind of implies that he's not taking this whole thing too seriously either.
What's being done to fix the Kixie Winsey?
Normally, the Kixie Winsey automatically fixes itself. But when something breaks that isn't vital or necessary, it leaves the section unrepaired. We don't know how to fix it, and Grapple refuses to leave it. He's been sitting there for weeks.
Do you think he could be persuaded to help me anyway?
I don't think so. We tend to be a fairly stubborn people and Grapple much more than most. If he doesn't want to be moved, he won't move. If he won't talk to you, no amount of persuasion will help.
If I told him I was a god, would he help me out?
Grapple hates the gods more than anyone. He remembers the days before the gods, when we worshipped the Mangers. He feels that the gods displaced them. I think if you told him you were a god, he would die before he uttered one word to steer you in the right direction.
Mangers? As in managers? These poor dwarves just keep getting subjected by one people after another.
Where can I find this rock digger?
Grapple sits in the same place every day, waiting for the Kixie Winsey to be repaired. Each day he sits there, he gets more and more surly. Go north to the intersection and follow the left wall. That will take you to him.
How old is Grapple Rock Digger?
He's been here for as long as anyone remembers, long before I was born. He'll tell you he remembers when the Kixie Winsey was built, but that was thousands of years ago. I think what he forgets, he makes up.
Back in my day.
Enough about this rock digger. Tell me more about this place.
Certainly. What do you want to know?
What are you writing?
Speeches. I have to convince my fellow dwarves that these gods aren't what they claim. They've oppressed us for too long. We must break the chains and take back our freedom. I'm just not very literate. I can't put my ideas down on paper very well, but I'm determined.
Well, he's got the right spirit at least.
Why don't you ad-lib your speeches?
Oh, I couldn't do that. Every idea must be perfectly worded. One misspoken word could have the opposite effect of what I'm trying to achieve. I only deliver my speeches after I'm entirely happy with them.
I can kind of relate to this guy.
Why don't your people believe you?
I think I'm getting to them. No one is happy with the gods, but it's a different matter convincing them that the gods aren't divine at all.
How are they oppressing you?
They moved in, told us where to work and for how long. Our heritage tells us to care for the Kixie Winsey. Since the gods came, we haven't been able to do that. They make us use the Kixie Winsey to produce water for them. Parts of the great machine are breaking down, but unless the part has something to do with water production, we're not even allowed to look at the problem. They tell us where to live, they've broken up families, they keep us from the sacred places like the control room. If they were gods, I would assume that they had their reasons, but they aren't. They are just another race taking advantage of us.
What does a god need with a Kixie Whinsey?
Where'd you get all of these parchments?
I gathered them from all over the Kixie Whinsey. No one reads them. In fact, no one can. They're too old. So I write my speeches on the back of them.
What makes you so sure that the gods aren't what they claim?
I've seen them. Without the glow. I discovered that it's artificially produced.
It's not natural, eh? How do they make it?
It's magic. According to some of the older dwarves, everyone used to be able to use magic. They've cast a spell to make themselves glow.
How did you learn this?
When the gods arrived, they dropped from the sky in a flying ship. After they moved in, I snuck aboard the ship. I actually saw one of them, not shining at all. He was moving his hands in some intricate motion over a bunch of little statues. When he was done, the statues glowed brighter. I must have gasped because he immediately looked over at me. I ran, and he never found me. But ever since, they've posted a guard outside the ship.
A flying ship?
Yes. One of the byproducts of the Kixie Whinsey is water. For their own reasons, they pump the water into the ship and leave with it, only to return a few days later with new gods and an empty ship.
They're guarding the ship now,
Ever since my excursion, they placed one guard outside of their ship. Because dwarves tend to be fairly noisy, even when we're sneaking around, the gods put someone there who has very sensitive hearing. His ears can detect the slightest sound of movement out of the caves toward the ship. Consequently, no one's gotten anywhere near it.
Isn't that enough to convince the other dwarves that they aren't gods?
I haven't told them. It might go against their beliefs to the extent that they would just stop listening to me. I simply can't risk it. The only way to convince them would be by removing the god's glow. Once my fellows have seen beyond the artificial shining, they will rise up and cast them out. I can't figure out how to do that, though.
Let's talk about something else.
Very well.
This is a really messed up dogma these dwarves have.
Let's get back to talking about this place, shall we?
Certainly. What do you want to know?
What is this place?
This is one of the sacred places of the Kixie Whinsey. The broom closet. I'm lucky enough to have this place to work.
Yes, it's, magnificent.
What exactly is the Kixie Whinsey?
The Kixie Whinsey is everywhere. It's all around us. The humming you hear is the Kixie Whinsey at work.
How big is this machine?
Larger than anything. No matter where you go, the Kixie Whinsey has been there first. It digs tunnels and fills them in according to its own whims. We live in the chambers that it builds. If it fills up our homes, we find somewhere new to stay. Its controls and instruments are scattered throughout the entire continent.
What does it do?
It serves the purpose of the Mangers. Long ago, the Mangers built the Kixie Whinsey and asked us to care for it. We have done so ever since.
In other words, you have no idea what the Kixie Whinsey does.
Well, no. It isn't for us to know. Our purpose is to monitor and care for the Kixie Whinsey. The gods don't seem to know what it does either. Ever since they moved in, they've been running tests of all sorts on it. They've restricted everyone from the control room where they've based their tests.
These Mangers, are they still around?
No. The Mangers have been gone for many, many years. Some of the young ones don't even believe in them anymore. Only stories and legends keep the memory of the Mangers alive.
Let's talk about something else.
Certainly.
What is that you're using for a candlestick holder?
It's all I could find. If I had a better candlestick holder, you can bet that I'd be using it.
Hint, hint.
That's a mighty big jug of ink you've got there.
I found that jug of fast-drying ink quite a while ago. Despite the amount of speeches I write, I've only used a small portion of the ink the jug contains. I believe it will last indefinitely.
That's all. I have to go.
Very well. I must get back to my speeches. Feel free to look around.
Finally. So yeah, it's pretty obvious that this candlestick holder of his is important in some way. Pipe sits on the corner of the desk with a lit candle stuck into it, but I can't just take it from him, I guess.
Sorry, but since I don't own a proper candlestick holder, it's the only thing I have to keep my candle upright.
Yeah, figures. I do believe we can grab this cork, though. That's sure to come in handy. A large jug sits atop a pile of papers. The jug is labeled Quick Drying Ink. I suppose that'll come into play later. We gotta find something for this guy to keep his candle in so we can get the pipe. I do recall we do want his parchment. Oh. You see only the back of the parchment on which Limbeck is scrawling. It has something printed on it, but you can't read it from here. Of course, we can't just take that either, but you remember what the other dwarf told us about his eating habits. You slap a large dollop of marmalade onto the bread. The marmalade is overflowing. Perhaps you've added just a bit too much. Here you go.
Drat! Now I'll have to start over.
Without looking up, Limbeck accepts the bread and gobbles it down. The mountain of marmalade drips everywhere, even on the parchment before him. He throws the parchment to the side, selects another from a nearby pile, and again begins to write. Yoink! And what do we have here? A geological survey map of the continent of Drevlin. It shows the location of all major mineral deposits. The other side is smeared and sticky, so you try to ignore it. See? Told you it was important. I suppose now we just have to go and meet this old bastard. The dwarf looks about as cantankerous as dwarves can. He sits on a stool, mumbling about how life is so unfair. He's in a interesting position there. His continuous diatribe includes such topics as how good the old days were, how the young dwarfs don't have the respect for the Kixie Winsy they should have, and other standard cranky old dwarf complaints.
What the heck do you want, you overgrown dim-witted god wannabe? And speak up!
I like this guy already.
Are you Grapple Rockdigger?
No, my name's not Groople Potlicker, you rockhead. I'm Grapple Rockdigger. Who's asking?
I'm a god. Answer my questions or suffer the consequences.
A god, eh? Well, you can just go right back to wherever you came from and to blazes with your questions and consequences.
Well, not the right approach to take with him.
I thought even someone as thick as you would realize that I don't want to talk to you. What is it this time?
Just had to try, though.
Why are you sitting beneath that dripping black gunk?
I'm not moving until the Kixie Winsy is fixed, and that's final. If dripping gunk isn't going to make me move, you sure aren't.
He makes a good point.
Nice stool.
There's no pool around here. What are you, blind?
No, I said stool. What are you, deaf?
Can't understand a word you said. New to the language, are you?
Oh boy, this is gonna be a long one.
Could I ask you a few questions?
Listen, I'm sitting under a broken pipe that's dripping black goo on my head, and the gods have commanded everyone to stay away so they can't fix the problem, and you want me to be friendly? Answer all your questions with a smile? Well, I'll tell you what, until the Kixie Winsy is fixed and those gods are gone, I'm not talking to anyone. No stories, no questions, nothing.
You won't talk to me until the gods are gone? Isn't that an awful lot to ask?
Who's asking you? As far as I'm concerned, you can bump your head on every tunnel ceiling you find until you realize that I'm not going to talk to you.
What's wrong with the Kixie Winsy?
A length of pipe is rotted away. I had to shut the main valve to keep it from spewing black gunk all over the place. So until the pipes are repaired, I can't risk reopening the valve.
Why don't you fix the pipes?
It's not my job to fix it. Even if it was, I'd need something to fix it with.
What about that box labeled pipe repair on the floor?
Everybody's rummaged in that box taking what they want without regard for the fact that the Kixie Winsy might actually need it. At one time there were 5 pipe fittings in the box. Now there's only 1.
Well, you're holding one of them.
What became of the missing pipe fittings?
Who knows? Some folks have absolutely no consideration. They took my pipe fittings for one silly purpose or another. Did they ask my permission? Not once! Why, the gods even made off with one of them. Even if I could get those other pieces back, I'll never see that one again.
Wait a second. What exactly are you holding in your ear?
It helps me hear. It's a pipe fitting. I guess I got it from the box.
Got you.
Tell you what, if I repair your pipe, will you tell me what I need to know?
Why not? Fix my pipes and I'll answer your questions afterwards. As long as the gods are gone as well. I don't think very well with all of these walking lamps about.
I don't think the pipe helps your hearing all that much. Can I have it?
Very well, as long as I have your word that you'll use it to repair my pipes. Will there be anything else?
He's actually surprisingly hospitable, once you get to know him.
Let's start over. We seem to have gotten off on the wrong foot.
Have you looked at your overgrown feet lately? Wrong feet are all you have.
Thanks.
I'm looking for a seal piece, a hexagonal metal artifact with a symbol etched into it. Maybe you could tell me where I could find it.
I may have seen something like that. Doesn't matter, though. You obviously want to see it for yourself, and that's impossible. As I recall, there used to be a tunnel that led where you want to go, but the Kixie Winsey filled it up a long time ago. There's no way to get there anymore.
First solid clue we've gotten.
If the Kixie Winsey filled in the tunnel, couldn't it just as easily dig another?
And how are you going to convince the Kixie Winsey to dig where you want it to go? The gods have been trying to control it for years, and they've gotten nowhere. Besides, I'm not going to tell you where it is until my pipes are repaired. Fact is, I've said too much already.
Quid pro quo.
Why are you so grumpy?
Wait a second. That's a question. If you're trying to trick me, it won't work. I'm not saying anything.
Maybe changing the subject would make you happier.
Not likely.
I don't want anything, you squat, ugly old dwarf.
Then why are you wasting my time? Get out of here, you festering pile of refuse.
Well, fine. Well, at least that conversation was a bit more entertaining than what we've had so far. Yoink! Another pipe. So we gotta get a bunch of pipes to get this thing working again. That's all the pipes we can get for now, and he's not gonna help us any further, so we might as well move on. The gods. A massive control panel dominates the wall. This must be the brains of the Kixie Winsey. Two glowing figures stand around a huge control panel. They tinker with it and study results, but don't seem to be getting anywhere. Yeah, but I don't think we can really do a whole lot right now because we don't want to draw attention to ourselves. No, we can't talk to them anyway. You can't get a good look at the controls from here, and you dare not show yourself to the gods in the room. Okay then. Where does this go? This is a workstation of the Kixie Winsey. Obviously the job isn't too tough, or this dwarf wouldn't be asleep. Leaning back in his chair, a dwarf has fallen asleep with his head nestled between the two bells of an alarm. Gee, what would happen if those alarms went off? This instrument physically senses the ambient temperature. The results are shown on the gauge beside it. Temperature, eh? And we just happen to know a heat spell. Zing! You hang the heat rune construct in the air. As soon as you've completed the glowing lines of the spell, the temperature sensor begins to smoke. The gauge's needle jumps into the danger zone and the twin bell alarm sounds. This rudely awakens the sleeping dwarf, who immediately panics. The commotion attracts the glowing guard, who is covering his ears in pain. He screams at the guard to stop the alarm, but the dwarf appears as helpless as the guard. Don't mind me, just passing through. You find it quite easy to sneak by the guard while he is busy trying to get the alarm to stop. The ship's deck overlooks the dwarven caves. A rope ladder drops to the ground and stairs lead elsewhere on the ship. So we've managed to slip past them, but we've been going on for quite a while now already. In no small part thanks to all the conversations we've been having, so I'm gonna cut this short for now, and we'll continue next time with Deathgate. Thank you all very much for watching, and see you next time. Bye-bye.